Welcome into the Solo Shot Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Dom Manna. Happy Solo Shot Saturday. It's a rainy one here from the ETV Community Media Center, but we are back and we are live. Have a really fun show for you guys today, and I really appreciate you guys spending part of your Saturday or week with me. And one of the great parts about it only being April 20th is the fact that everybody is in it. And I mean everybody. The Athletics are giving teams fits and winning games and playing competitive baseball, all the way to the Dodgers and the Braves and the teams that everyone expected to be good at baseball. It is just an absolutely great time of the year. Nobody is eliminated from playoff contention yet, though the Rockies are trying their darnest to be. And I think that this is just a beautiful time for baseball. I know we're not in the consistent, nice sunny day weather that we're going to get in a few months here, and a lot still can happen. There's been a lot of injuries. A lot of players are going to be coming back from injuries. But this is, in my opinion, the best time of the year for baseball till we get to the playoff push at the end of the season, because every team is in it. Every team has hope. Every team has storylines, and it is truly something that I just love, because I can tune into any game at any time and I'm just like, okay, what can this team do? They had a nice game this week, or this guy had a good start last time out. Let's see how he did this time, and try to find trends and try to find players that you can root for and watch throughout the entire season. It is an absolute blast. Now, this buzz topic bounced around the league a lot last year during the first half of the season about who the active Hall of Famers are in today's game. A good friend of mine, Jake Brewer, has done some extensive research on this, and on average, there are about 40 active Hall of Famers in any given year in the major leagues. Now, some of these guys aren't on major league teams, but they aren't retired. Some of these guys are at the end. Some of these guys are in their prime. Some of these guys are just starting out as young players. But there's around 40, and there's no exact science to this, but I wanted to revisit it from last year because I feel like I talked about some guys that were truly in the inner circle of Hall of Fame talk. And I didn't really touch on some of the other guys that are trending really well. So just to start with the obvious, there's 5 guys that are active today that if they retired tomorrow, they would get into the Hall of Fame first ballot. No doubt about it. The first one is Mike Trout, who is absolutely killing it this season. Major League leading 8 home runs so far. And he is a 3-time MVP, already has a ton of WAR for a guy that's in his early 30s, and is arguably the best player of his generation. I know Shohei Ohtani kind of upsold him the last couple of years because Trout wasn't healthy and Ohtani was doing things that only Babe Ruth had done. But Mike Trout is a generational guy and is a no doubt Hall of Famer, whether he retires today or plays another decade. Justin Verlander, he is expected to be back very soon to the major leagues. And I'm very excited to see what he still has in the tank. 257 wins, 80.9 career WAR, an MVP as a pitcher, 3 Cy Youngs, 3,000 strikeouts. He's a shoe-in. Clayton Kershaw, who is currently on the IL, is 56 strikeouts away from 3,000, which is the last feather in the cap of his Hall of Fame career. Same thing, 3 Cy Youngs, an MVP as a pitcher. Truly one of the greatest pitching peaks we've ever seen. Max Scherzer, 75 WAR. He's expected to be back in May. He has 3,300 Ks, 3 Cy Youngs, and a World Series championship, which he was a huge part of for the Nationals, as well as helping the Rangers win the World Series last year in a more limited role. He's an automatic. And Zach Greinke, who is still unsigned, still unretired, he is even closer. He is a mere 21 strikeouts away from the 3,000 club, which I think would put a lot of people on notice and would make him an automatic first ballot guy. I still think with the state of pitching today, he is a first ballot Hall of Famer, but Zach Greinke, I hope he gets signed by a team that has some injuries and allows him to get his 3,000 strikeout, because Zach Greinke is a very unsung pitcher of his generation. And despite his quirks, is a Hall of Famer that is active today. Then there's a group of guys that are essentially there, but they haven't necessarily compiled their full career numbers yet that cement them as locks, like the guys that I just talked about. In that group, there's Mookie Betts, who's now playing shortstop at an elite level. Nolan Arenado, who has 10 gold gloves and over 300 home runs at third base. Freddie Freeman, who is Mr. Consistent over in Dodger Blue and is very close to 60 career WAR. Paul Goldschmidt, who has over 60 career WAR, and his MVP in 2022 really kind of put people on notice for him being a Hall of Famer, despite being one of the best hitters in the National League for a decade. Bryce Harper has 2 MVPs and has been essentially the LeBron James of baseball. A guy who was on the cover of Sports Illustrated at 16, hitting 400-foot home runs with a metal bat. He has lived up to the hype in a lot of ways, and I think that he is a no doubt Hall of Famer on the track. Manny Machado and Jose Altuve are kind of guys that aren't well liked across the league, but are both well ahead of schedule to make the Hall of Fame. With the contracts they have left and the talent that they possess, they will have Hall of Fame numbers when it's all said and done. And then there's Shohei Ohtani. Now, Shohei Ohtani is basically in a tier of his own because we've never seen something like this before. But Shohei Ohtani, he signed a 10-year contract with the Dodgers, which guarantees he will play 10 major league seasons, which guarantees he will be in the Baseball Hall of Fame someday. That's the bare minimum requirement, is you need to play 10 seasons in the majors to be eligible. And Shohei Ohtani, regardless of how the splits are between how many years he pitched, how many years he hit, and his final numbers, doing both, doing one separately than the other, his numbers are going to be amazing for what he did. And he will be a Hall of Famer with that long-term contract. And then there's 2 guys who I think with the new school analytical mind of the voters are going to get really good support. And there's Joey Votto, who's currently in the Blue Jays minor league system, 64.5 career WAR and MVP, over 2,000 hits, over 350 home runs. He's worthy in my book, but there's some people that are very skeptical of him because he wasn't that big 400-500 home run slugging first baseman that you're typically used to. But he was a great hitter. He walked a ton, used the Ted Williams school book of hitting. He is a baseball legend, and I think we'll get great support when he hits the ballot. The other one is Andrew McCutchen, who just hit his 300th career home run, which is a big deal to me for your Hall of Fame case. And he has just under 50 WAR and 2,000 hits, over 1,000 RBIs and 1,000 runs scored, and that MVP that he won with the Pirates back in the day when he was one of the best hitters in the National League. He's someone that I think is going to garner some real support from the writers when it's all said and done. And I think him being back in Pittsburgh is reminding people of the legend of Andrew McCutchen, who was a journeyman for a little bit there. Then there's a group of guys that they're not essentially there. They still have a lot of time left where things can go wrong, but they're on pace and they're not young. Aaron Judge, I don't think he has to hit 400 to 500 home runs to make the Baseball Hall of Fame. That 62 home run season, the MVPs, the Rookie of the Years, the home runs, being the Yankee captain is going to do a lot of wonders for him. And he's truly an all-around player. He can run the bases, play center field at his height. Like, it is insane to watch Aaron Judge every day, and him being locked up with the Yankees. He's on pace. If he plays more games than he misses the rest of the way, he should be able to get into the Hall of Fame. Jose Ramirez, the most overlooked player in baseball, in my opinion, has 46.1 WAR in 12 seasons and truly should be a guy that gets to 2,000 hits, gets to 300 home runs, 1,000 RBIs, 1,000 runs scored. And if he wins an MVP, he's very similar to Paul Goldschmidt. I talked about that last year as a guy that people will be like, oh yeah, like J-Ram is a Hall of Famer when he was one of the best players in his league for a decade. Francisco Lindor, Corey Seager, and Trey Turner are all also on pace, not just because of their contracts that they signed that are long-term, but the talent that they all possess. The shortstop position is as talented as it's ever been. This isn't even mentioning guys like Xander Bogaerts, who's lower on the list, or Carlos Correa, who some people think could make the Hall of Fame one day. But those three guys, Lindor, Seager, and Turner, I have them in that order, all are on pace to have Hall of Fame numbers at the shortstop position. Then there's a group of guys that are just chasing a milestone. And if they get that milestone, they'll probably be Hall of Famers. If they don't, it'll be more of a toss-up. Giancarlo Stanton's the first one. He's been looking really good this season so far. And he is very close to 500 home runs, the closest of anybody in the major leagues. He has over 400 already. If he gets 500, he's a Hall of Famer with his MVP and the rest of his stats he has. Garrett Cole, who's hurt right now, he has 2,152 career strikeouts. If he gets 3,000, he's a Hall of Famer. And there's going to be no argument about that. Cy Young, all the other stats. If he gets 3,000 Ks, he'll be a Hall of Famer. Kenley Jansen right now is in the 420s for his career saves. If he gets to 500, I think that he'll be a lock. Even if he doesn't, though, with Billy Wagner's support, it's possible that Jansen and Kimbrel, who I have lower on the list because I don't think he'll get 500 saves, make the Hall of Fame as well one day. But if he gets 500, Jansen's going to Cooperstown. And Pete Alonso, who is doing pretty well in his contract year right now, I believe he has 6 home runs. And if he gets 500 at the end of his career, he's in. No doubt about it. Doesn't matter what the batting average and hits look like. If he gets 500 home runs clean, he will be in the Hall of Fame. Then there's a group of guys that are just young with insane talent, and they just haven't done enough to get into the further categories. Juan Soto, my MVP pick, just hit his 500th career RBI on a solo shot, and he is like the 7th fastest player to 500 RBIs since 1977 in terms of age, and he is an unbelievable hitter that is well on the Hall of Fame pace. He just needs to put more time in. Ronald Acuna Jr. finally hit his first home run of 2024, is well on pace as well with that amazing season he had last year to kind of make up for some missed time. He's pacing very well. Rafael Devers, truly an amazing hitter. He's not right now. I can say that as a Red Sox fan watching him and everything I've heard. There's something going on between his shoulder and everything else. But Rafael Devers, I think, is an active Hall of Famer. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., same kind of thing. Amazing hitter from the other side of the dish, has been pacing really well and should be on people's Hall of Fame watch. And then I'm at 28, and that's where my confidence level really starts to shrink. Some other names that I think could be Hall of Famers someday. I feel decent about guys like Xander Bogaerts, Anthony Rizzo, Craig Kimbrel, Evan Longoria, Marcus Semien, who you guys know I love, and Aroldis Chapman getting votes from the writers. I'm not saying that they're going to get in, but they will get votes and support. And then there's guys that are young and I just have a good feeling about. So Yordan Alvarez, Luis Arraez, Julio Rodriguez, Bobby Witt, and Adley Rutschman. Those are the guys that I think we're looking at as possible active Hall of Famers right now. There are a ton of young, talented players in the major leagues right now. And I think that is just absolutely a great time to watch baseball because there are guys that are living legends, like those pitchers that I'm talking about, Verlander, Scherzer, Greinke, and Kershaw. But there are also a ton of guys that are in the middle of their careers doing great. And there's a ton of guys that are super young that I think have a ton of potential to make the Hall of Fame one day. But what's great about it is there is so many variables. These guys could get dinged for PEDs like Fernando Tatis did, which is why he didn't make my list. There could be guys that get into off the field trouble like we've seen with Wander Franco and are out of Hall of Fame consideration. Or there could be guys that just have injuries and aren't able to compile the statistics needed, both analytically and traditional, to get Hall of Fame consideration. But let me know in the comments below of what you think of my 40, and let me know who you have a strong feeling about making the Hall of Fame that's active right now, because I think it's a really fun topic, and I'm going to keep revisiting it every year. So Don't get used to this every week, but I do have a lot of lines out there with potential guests. I had a lot of fun last week talking with my good friend DJ Karen, and I think that it's absolutely amazing that we are in this situation where I can have guests on the program now, and it's just so much fun. So a good friend of mine named Scott over at Mambo Reviews has started a new journey in the content creating world, and he covers all different kinds of products, games, movies, etc., as well as putting a goal to review all 30 Major League Baseball stadiums with his buddy Dom. So I hope you guys enjoy the interview. Back to another edition of Double Play. This time I am extremely honored to be joined here by a great lifelong friend of mine, Mr. Scott Krebs of Mambo Reviews. Scott, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Dom. It's an honor and pleasure to be on the podcast. I've been watching you do it since you started, and I've been waiting for a while to be on. But yeah, my name's Scott. I co-run a YouTube channel and TikTok page and all that with another person named Dom, and we run Mambo Reviews.
Yeah, for those of you that think Dominic is a unique name, you didn't go to East Haven High School, because I was one of about 72 Dominics in grades 9 through 12 there during my time. But Dom's a great guy as well, and you guys do a lot of great stuff. You're repping your Diamondbacks, and that's kind of where I want to start the conversation.
With a heavy heart. With a heavy heart as of recent times.
For many years, being a Diamondbacks fan just wasn't the best look. There wasn't a lot of bright spots with the franchise, and me and you live here in Connecticut. So just tell me a little bit about how you became a Diamondbacks fan living in New Haven County, Connecticut. Like, how did that happen?
So it's not the greatest story of all time. Growing up, I've always loved playing sports, but I didn't really like watching sports. And the first full sports game I watched was the Super Bowl with Pittsburgh Steelers and Arizona Cardinals. And just as a kid, I just said to myself, "Oh, I want the red team to win." They didn't. And I really enjoyed watching that game. And after that, I started watching more baseball, hockey, basketball. I already did watch a little bit of basketball. Growing up playing basketball, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was my favorite player. So basketball is the only sport I don't like in Arizona team. But aside from being a Mets fan or Reds, like my family is all over the place with all different sports, and I didn't want to follow suit. So I just said, "Oh, I liked Arizona back in the Super Bowl. I'll follow Arizona for everything."
No, I mean, I really respect you for being bold, and in the baseball world, at least with all the blackouts that we get, you are beating us all, because you get to watch your team every single night with your MLB TV subscription, where if I bought it, I would be blacked out of all those Red Sox, Mets, and Yankees games that I typically want to catch. So you're actually winning at the end of the day when it comes to that. And I think that's just really cool that there are fans of some smaller market, unique teams all across the country for reasons that could be as simple as a really good sports memory to begin your early sports fan life. And the Diamondbacks, they went on a crazy run last year. I picked them to beat the Rangers in the World Series when that was set. They unfortunately did not end up being the case, but you got to feel good about where the Diamondbacks are at as a whole. They're a team that has a ton of young talent. Corbin Carroll's jersey's been hanging on the set here for a while as the NL champions. I'll be switching those up at the end of the month with like the top two teams in each league. But this Diamondbacks team not only went on this run and made it to a World Series, won a pennant, had a lot of great players, but they went out there this offseason, they doubled down, and they went out there and they got Jordan Montgomery and Eduardo Rodriguez, who we haven't seen much of, but the Diamondbacks have still been competitive without. They went out there and got Eugenio Suarez to be their everyday third baseman after putting the corpse of Evan Longoria out there last year. They brought in Jock Peterson, who has hit 2 home runs this week after being one of the best on-base players in the league, walking way more than he was striking out. So talk about what it feels like to see your team that typically isn't big spenders, typically is more of a small market point of view, have that success and then double down to the success for future years in this window. How does that feel?
It feels really good. I was a part of pretty much everyone that didn't expect Arizona to make the run they did last year. And it kind of fluffed my feathers up after we beat the Phillies in Game 7. And after that game, I had the mindset of, oh, we're winning the whole thing. And then it spiraled horribly. But this year, even though it was daunting seeing our division rivals, the Dodgers, spending close to $1 billion, we did make really good moves. And where we fall, we rise strong in our starting pitchers and in our lineup. I think we fall short, and were short last year with our relievers and closers. And that's why we've currently been losing games. I mean, we hold strong in the beginning of games. I mean, I think you can't count on one hand how many games Gurriel has started the game with a home run. But it's going through the game and finishing the game that we're struggling with, and is my current worry.
Yeah, Gurriel's been fantastic. And I have to say, yes, the Diamondbacks bullpen so far this season has been a mixed bag. And I do always compare relievers to kind of kickers in the NFL. They are very hot and cold, a lot of them. There's kind of a big revolving door. You either have that locked and loaded guy, that Justin Tucker, that Craig Kimbrell level guy that's just a lockdown person for a decade. And then there's a lot of ebbs and flows. There's seasons where a guy's money. There's seasons where a guy can't hit the strike zone because these guys aren't complete pitchers. That's why they're in the bullpen and not on a starting rotation. But your Diamondbacks, part of the reason why I picked them over the Rangers was that bullpen during that stretch into the playoffs and throughout the playoffs was arguably their best weapon. There was guys that most of the baseball audience had never even heard of, like Andrew Saalfrank, who was pitching big time innings. Like there was a lot to like, and I do think that they've shown that the relieving group that they have in there, while they're missing Sewald dearly, is well built for a run to close out games and get big outs and do that. So I wouldn't worry too much about the bullpen long term. Some of those guys aren't going to be as good as they were last year, but I don't think every single guy in that bullpen was a complete fluke. I think that they're going to be okay. Yeah. But talking about the Diamondbacks here to kind of wrap things up, my favorite guy throughout like this whole thing has been Ketel Marte. He is someone who is absolutely electric and has been hitting leadoff home runs and just been absolutely awesome. He tied the game with a solo shot in the bottom of the 9th with 2 outs in that crazy comeback win against the Cubs. What does it mean to have a switch hitting stud hitting middle infielder like that as kind of the veteran to bring along guys like Corbin Carroll and Alec Thomas and Blaze Alexander that my last guest talked very fondly about? Having a veteran there like Ketel Marte to be there for even Gabriel Moreno, all those guys. What does that mean, having him as a guy that you get to follow and watch every day?
So I love watching Ketel, and he is a phenomenal ball player. And maybe I'm going to sound biased, but looking at Arizona as a team, there's no real, like, this is the guy. And that's what I kind of love about Arizona. I mean, everyone kind of goes through their strides, and everyone, when they can, does what they needs to do what they need to do. And it just, when it flows so beautifully. Where, I mean, the Yankees, for example, Aaron Judge is their guy.
Juan Soto's coming for that crown, but yeah, there is a clear superstar on that team. for sure.
And though you have your phenomenal players on Arizona, Zach Gallen, right now Corbin Carroll is kind of stealing the face of Arizona. But I mean, when they get hot and you watch them, it's every player on that team's game. And everyone's going. I mean, it reminds me of like your rec team. Like you're playing for East Haven 89ers and everyone's just hot and everyone's just pounding around. And even when we're losing and stuff, you don't see like our guys like throwing a tantrum or like slamming their bats down. Like it's a team that they're just having fun. And it's, as a fan, it's fun to watch. And I love Suarez, seeing him now in Longo spot. And he's been a phenomenal pickup. And Moreno at catcher. I mean, I fell in love with him last year, beginning of the season. And even more so when we had the 4 home runs in 1 inning against the Dodgers. I mean, they're one of those teams that's turning into a team that it's hard to hate. Like, even though we haven't won anything, it's like UConn. Like the UConn Huskies. They're a team that's so fundamental and they're just fun to watch.
Yeah, and I think I would have came to that conclusion just as a general baseball fan, but having that side rooting interest for that being your team and the amount of times we've went to baseball games together to watch your Diamondbacks play up here in the Northeast, which thankfully happens every year now with the new rules and calendars. And I want to talk about that because Mambo Reviews, I'm going to leave a link to Scott's link tree for everywhere you can find Mambo Reviews content. They do all kinds of stuff from movie and board game reviews to live streams to at the stadium baseball content. And I feel like I'm a victim of not talking about this enough. I try to advocate for this as much as possible. Go out to a baseball game. I know there's been some rough days with the rain, and there's going to be some more. There's been some days that are still kind of cold here in April and late March, but go to a baseball game. The point of entry is cheaper than the majority of major sports, and there's so many opportunities for you to catch a game. There's 81 home games for every single team. So tell the people at home a little about your first stadium review of the season. You and Dom went to Yankee Stadium. So tell the viewers a little bit of a taste about what that was like attending a game as content creators.
Right. So like Dom said, we do a whole bunch of different reviews on everything, but Mambo Reviews originally started as the idea of reviewing every baseball stadium. That was our goal, and it still is. We are planning on visiting 4 stadiums this year. That's Yankees. Actually, no, 5. Yankees, Mets, Red Sox. And then we're taking a trip down to Maryland to see the Orioles and Nationals. But going back to Yankee Stadium, it was our first review for a stadium. And though we both have been to Yankee games before, I mean, countless, we were trying to go into it with a blank slate, just throwing everything that we love and hate about the stadium and everything, and just this is and everything. We are still getting around to figuring out how to format it, but I mean, personally, as a huge fan of baseball, everything about going to a game and being at the game is phenomenal. And I don't know how it is at other places, but when you're from the Northeast and you're catching the Metro North train, the Yankee Clipper, and you see all the people wearing Yankees jerseys, and everyone's just excited to go to the game, even just getting there is phenomenal. On that day, they were playing the Miami Marlins, and the Marlins got their 3rd win of the season. And we decided to go very early. We got to the stadium at around 3 o'clock, and the game was until 7. And we went to go review the 99 burger because we want to review everything about the game. Getting there, the food, the ticket prices, the seating, the atmosphere, like everything about it. And we wanted to do the 99 burger because last year they introduced it, and it was only 99 of them. First come, first serve, and that's it. So we get there, we get in, and we immediately beeline it to the gate that the 99 burger is at. And instead of a little kiosk stand, it was a whole venue. And we go to find out that we came early for nothing because the 99 burger is now available to all fans.
All 99 million Yankees fans that want an Aaron Judge burger can have it. Yes.
The burger was phenomenal. It was very, very good. I know stadiums this year are releasing a whole bunch of different food items to bring in different people, which we got one of the new shakes that Yankee Stadium has that was also very good. A little pricey for a shake. It was more expensive than the burger. But that was also very good. But the atmosphere at Yankee Stadium. There was not a single moment of silence at that game, even when they were losing 4-0 to the Miami Marlins. They are a fan base that will never stop cheering, will never lose faith. And they're a fan base that you very rarely see leave the game early. I've seen it happen at Red Sox games. I've seen it happen at Mets games. I saw it happen at the Diamondbacks game when I went a few years ago. Yankees fans will not quit until that last out is made. We were in section 109, so we were right behind Juan Soto. And even though I personally do not like him right now, he engages with the fans. He is personally, you gotta like him. He's funny. He knows what the people like. Even the Soto shuffle, he sees that people go crazy over it, and he will not stop doing it. It'll be a ball in the dirt, and he'll stare the pitcher down and do a shuffle. We gave Yankee Stadium a tier. Originally, it was lower for me. Like, just being before all the Mambo reviews, before everything, it was lower for me. But really, like, taking everything in and really analyzing it, Yankee Stadium is really up there as a great stadium.
Yeah, and I say this reluctantly as a Red Sox fan. I've been to the new Yankee Stadium one time. It's been a long time since I've won. I should probably go again. It is a very nice stadium. State-of-the-art everything. For a organization that is the, I believe, second most valuable sports franchise behind the Dallas Cowboys,
Yes.
they treat their stadium and their fans that way. And I think it's interesting that you didn't just talk about the overpriced milkshakes and things that you kind of tend to expect when you go and attend a professional sports game. That's part of the journey. A lot of teams will have expensive concessions and souvenirs, but you talked about the fan atmosphere and the interaction with the players. And I know the Yankees for the last couple of years have been famous for doing the roll call around the stadium.
We were in this section where the roll call was taking place, and we did the roll call.
Yeah.
And there was even this one fan that was like heckling all the Miami players in the outfield and all that. And it's not just the atmosphere with the fans to the players. It's fan to fan. I mean, that same guy who was right in the front of the section, like, we just locked eyes. And I'm sure you're familiar with the new memes going around with Sketch, though. What's up, brother? We just locked eyes and we did that together. And we just pointed at each other. And it was just, never met each other a day in our lives. And just instantly connected, funny moment, which you don't have a lot of places. And not trying to keep this dragging on, but these seats that we got were from last year. Me and Dom went to Yankees Diamondbacks, and it got rained out, so we went the next day. The next day, because of the rain out, they gave fan appreciation tickets to all the people that came for the makeup game. And it was 2 free tickets to select games for next year. And I mean, for 2 free tickets, they could have put everyone with those tickets in the nosebleed seats, sucking for oxygen. But they gave them phenomenal seats. I mean, that's probably the second best seats I've ever had at a game. And they treat their fans great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's enough just Yankee love for a day here on
And
this
I need to wash my
podcast.
mouth out later.
Yeah, I'm a little disgusted, but I appreciate all those thoughts, and I feel like those are things that get completely overlooked. People just look at a baseball game as something to do to kill time, or oh, I got to pay for parking and gas and concessions and maybe a souvenir and all those things that go on. But going to a baseball game is truly one of the most classic American things that you can do in any given day. It's a beautiful way to spend a summer day, and there's so many ways to enjoy things at the ballpark, around the ballpark. So go check out Mambo Reviews and make sure you just absorb that experience. Like he said, they're going to 5 stadiums this year. I'm sure they will be going to multiple for years to come. And they'll also be reviewing a bunch of different other things in the meantime if you're into things that aren't necessarily sports related, because like Scott said, with those fan connections, you can just connect on one thing, one shared passion, and you can have a great moment, a great segment, or a great friendship from that. So definitely go check out Mambo Reviews, connect with the great community that they're building over there, and you'll definitely enjoy it. No doubt about it. It's been awesome seeing you guys start that journey, and I can't wait to see more to come.
Thank you so much.
I want you to kind of ring us out here with your one bold baseball take. Our DJ Karen, my good friend from the last episode, he came out and said your Diamondbacks rookie, Blaze Alexander, who nobody thought was going to make the Major League roster, is going to win the National League Rookie of the Year this year. So what do you got to ring us out here as your bold baseball prediction, Scott?
So my bold baseball prediction, and this is completely unbiased as a Diamondbacks fan. I think right now, with the pace that they're on, the Los Angeles Dodgers are single-handedly proving that you can't just spend all the money in the world and get all the top names and just be the best team. You can't have a super team like the Golden State Warriors. You can't just buy every name, because baseball is a game where you get hot and cold. And sometimes all the cogs, even though they fit perfectly, don't make the machine run. I don't think they're winning the World Series this year. I'm not saying the Diamondbacks are, but I think that the Dodgers spent all this money just to be in the same spot that they were last year.
You heard it here, folks. The Dodgers spent almost $1.5 billion this offseason to not get better. You can't buy wins. Scotty's standing by that. And it'll be interesting to see how it goes, because while I have given some feedback about who the Dodgers signed specifically, because I think that matters, you can, I think, buy wins if you throw money at the right players. But guys like Tyler Glasnow and Shohei Ohtani have some injury concerns, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, a highest paid pitcher without pitching in the major leagues. I think they're all going to be fine when they're on the field, but staying on the field, availability, it will be interesting to watch and see during this tenure that they have those guys, if they end up winning a big one or being looked at as some of these super teams of years past, a la the Dream Team Eagles. Scott, this was a pleasure. My friend, appreciate that we finally got to have you on the show, and I definitely would like to have you back down the line when there's some more Diamondbacks related moments, maybe during the next playoff run.
Yeah, of course. I'd love to be on. This was a lot of fun.
All right. Thanks for coming, my friend. All right, we're back. And I just want to thank Scott again for coming on. That was a fun conversation to have with him, and definitely check out him and Dom over at Mambo Reviews. Their new journey has been starting over the last couple months, and they've been having a lot of fun with it. And I think you guys will have a lot of fun joining them as well. Here at the Solo Shot Sports Podcast, we like to throw it back down the third base line to this day in baseball history to talk about the players and moments and stories that are everlasting in this great game. And April 20th, it's a big day for a certain community, but it's a huge day in baseball history. There's a lot of big moments. There was debuts of great Hall of Famers. There were so many first win for Tom Seaver, debuts for Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer. Roberto Clemente getting elected to the Hall of Fame by special election. I know Lou, who's in the chat, is a big fan of that, but there's something that is still standing to this day, unlike many of these players that debuted or were elected to the Hall of Fame on this day. On this day in 1912, the Boston Red Sox played the first game at Fenway Park. Yes, so it's fitting following Mambo reviews where they want to review stadiums, and I know they will be going to Fenway in the future. The Boston Red Sox played the first game at Fenway Park after 3 previous attempts to do so that had been rained out. Over 27,000 fans attended as the Red Sox had their $1 million outfield of Duffy Lewis, Tris Speaker, and Harry Hooper, the latter two who later made the Baseball Hall of Fame. But there was not a green monster. That didn't come until 1934. Instead, there was Duffy's Cliff, which a lot of fans would sit right on the edge of and enjoy the game from there. It took a few years, but the Red Sox learned that those were the best seats in the house. And sitting on the Green Monster today is some of the most expensive tickets you can get across all of baseball. So Red Sox, they've had so many iconic moments. So many amazing players have played at Fenway over its 112-year history. And I think it's just truly a baseball museum that is still open to the public. For 81 games a year, you can go see your favorite players play at Fenway if you're not a Red Sox fan. And if you haven't been to Fenway and you can go, I couldn't recommend it more. It's truly a baseball bucket list item and my favorite stadium in the sport, bias and all. So Fenway Park opened its doors for its first game on this date in 1912. Now, just ringing things out here, I'm just going to talk about a few small market gems. It's been truly fun, and I talked a little bit about Diamondbacks with my good friend Scott, but there are other teams that are in smaller markets where these guys aren't getting the respect I think that they deserve. And the first one that I want to talk about is arguably the Pirates' new ace, and that is Mr. Jared Jones. So Jared Jones was the Pirates' number 3 prospect. I know everyone's waiting for Paul Skeens to debut. He's been looking real good in AAA, but Jared Jones came up, and he's essentially throwing 2 pitches. He's throwing his 4-seam fastball 47% of the time and his slider 41% of the time. He has a curveball and a changeup that he pretty much never throws. 2-pitch pitcher, and you're like, oh, well, that's not typically good for success. But right now, his fastball velocity is in the 93rd percentile. His chase percentage is 99th percentile, whiff percentage 97th percentile, K percentage 94th, and walk percentage 94th. So he is not walking guys. He is striking out a ton of batters. He is missing bats, and it shows because his hard hit percentage is 12%. His barrel percentage is 9%. He is truly an ace, and it is so fun to see something like that going on in today's game, because I think the Pirates, who have had a very nice start, and people have talked about Jared Jones, but the vast majority of baseball fans probably couldn't pick Jared Jones out of a lineup. So his Baseball Savant page is extremely impressive, a ton of red, and a guy that is, if he's on this pace, is going to get Cy Young votes in the National League, who nobody expected him to do so. The other guy who made the thumbnail today is Athletics closer Mason Miller. Now, I'm sure some of you on Twitter have seen Mason Miller pitch it today and seen 101, 102, 103. The man is averaging 101 miles per hour on his fastball, and he throws that 59% of the time. So basically, 6 out of every 10 pitches you get from Mason Miller are going to be over 100, and it is absolute disgust. He's also a 2-pitch pitcher, and he mixes in a slider there 40% of the time to kind of keep hitters off balance. But his Baseball Savant page is even more impressive than Jared Jones, because he is just expected ERA is 99th percentile. His expected batting average against is 100 percentile. His fastball velocity is the best in the league, 100 percentile. He has a 93% chase percentage, 99% whiff percentage, and a 99% K percentage. He is walking a lot more guys than Jared Jones, which comes with the territory of a flamethrowing reliever, but he is absolutely disgusting in terms of the stuff. Maybe not quite as good as a pitcher as Jared Jones, but just pure velocity, just pure mouth-watering stats. Mason Miller is turning into a true superstar, a true top 10 closer in the game, and a guy that is absolutely a pleasure to watch. So I gave you an American League guy and a National League guy. Sure, run out. And next time they're pitching, go and tune in Jared Jones. I'm going to get to see him against my Red Sox, which is going to be a tough battle, but it's just really fun to see pitchers break out in the way that if they were doing it in New York or LA, everybody be talking about them. Because they're doing it in Pittsburgh and Oakland, people can't even name them or pick them out of a lineup. It's just truly one of the great things about baseball and why everybody's still in it at this point in the season. I appreciate you guys, as always, for spending part of your Saturday with me, Will, Lou, Hugo, everyone that was in the chat. I appreciate you and all those that listen to this throughout the rest of the week. I will catch you guys next Solo Shot Saturday. Have a good one.